If you like being creative, working with your hands, and making a little bit of extra money, a CNC side hustle is probably right for you.
And over the last 9 years, I've taken my CNC side hustle and turned it into a multi-million-dollar business.
In today's video, I'm gonna give 10 reasons why I think a CNC side hustle is still worth it, and then different challenges and obstacles that you may incur while pursuing it. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So the first reason I think CNC side hustles are so much more approachable now than they ever have been before is the affordability aspect of CNCs. Now, you may make the arguing point that CNCs are still very expensive, they're thousands and thousands of dollars. But to put into context, my very first CNC cost me $6,000, and it was the cheapest I could find that did what I wanted it to do, which was pretty much engrave. Now, fast forward 8-9 years, you can get a CNC like this with a 4x4 bed for like $3,400 all in, and it comes with a spindle. Like, that was never possible until very, very recently. So the affordability factor of getting into CNCs is very, very high. To give a slight context of another industry that has been able to do this is like the Cricut machine. You know how Cricut's, like vinyl printers were really expensive, then now everybody has a Cricut. Well, the same kind of thing is happening with CNCs, where you have all the old school expensive CNCs and they keep getting them tighter and more compact and more readily available to the masses. So a CNC now, today, is more affordable than it ever has been. Whether it's a $300 one on Amazon, a $500 one, which, I'd stray away from those, but now it's $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 to $4,000, and you can get into it and it's not that big of upfront cost. So that leads me to the next thing that I absolutely love about CNCs is the versatility of that machine or this machine or any of my other 7 CNCs that I have, is that they are an all-in-one compact machine. And so this machine here can cut, so it can be my miter saw, my table saw, my planer, my jointer. It can surface, and theoretically, all you need, and all I believe that you need if you have a CNC, is a CNC, a hand sander, and a little bitty tiny trim router. If you have these things, you can make so many different projects because you don't have to get a planer or get a miter saw or get a table saw. You can stick a panel, whether it's this little piece of Bamex on there, whether it's a glued up walnut panel like this that you can get from different places, different cabinet shops or CIC workshop, it does not matter. You can stick it on there. You click go on your machine and it's gonna do so much of the work for you. So instead of going out and buying a table saw, a planer, a joiner, a miter saw, and then possibly getting a CNC, you already spent $3,000 up front and then you wanna get a CNC. Instead, what I tell people to do is start off with a CNC, have it kind of make you the money, and then work backwards, right? So put different sheet goods, put different hardwoods on there that are already ready to go, make the money there, then work backwards. So that's just me, what I've always personally done. I've always kind of worked that way and was like, okay, well, let me master that because that does most of the things, and then go backwards. And then when you need the joiner at the very end, which costs like $1,100, you can get on Craigslist for like $500, then you get that. But start off with these first. Now that's just my opinion, but that's what I absolutely love about CNCs because they're so versatile. The next thing that I really like about them is the repeatability. So you can't really see right here on the computer, but this is a program that I have that cuts out cornhole boards on one of my bigger CNCs. And what's so cool about it is when I was making these by myself, trying to sell them out of 2x4s and pieces of plywood and whatnot, it was very hard for me to train people how to do it. It wasn't as repeatable because, there's little bitty nuances, or there's a knot, or if you go to Home Depot, like everybody that goes to Home Depot, the 2x4s look like this, So there's not a lot of repeatability there. But with a CNC, I can stick a sheet on. Now this is one of my big ones, but same concept goes for these. You stick a sheet on there, you click go, and it cuts it out. You take off sheet, stick on next piece of wood, and click go, and it does it over and over and over again. So that repeatability of CNCs is you can't duplicate it. I mean, that's what they're made to do. They're a computer that's numerically controlled, that's meant to do a repeatable process over and over and over and over again. And it's a beautiful thing, and that's what I've built my business on and why I have 8 CNCs now, because I just keep stacking them because they are so versatile, so repeatable, and now they're getting even more affordable. So the bank likes it, I like it, my wallet likes it, my wife likes it. Now the next thing that I really love about CNCs is how much time they save. And so back to that cornhole scenario, when I used to make these cornhole boards, I have to, and this is not complicated, right? But I had to cut up the 2x4s, put the plywood on, drill the hole with a big old hole, hole drill, or take the jigsaw, drill your hole and cut out the hole, right? And there was so many different steps involved. With a CNC, I click go, and while it's cutting out, I'm doing something else. I'm picking flowers, eating a Snickers, smoking a stogie, whatever I want to do, and that machine's working, and it's running, and it's beautiful, and it's doing the same thing over and over again. When I look at CNC machines, whether it's this one or that one over there, I look at them as employees. And so I look at them as very, very good employees that once you learn how to train them, right, how to program them, and how to click go, so how to kick them in the butt and tell them to get going, you're already halfway there, and they're doing the work, and you're chilling, right? And you don't have to do a crazy amount of stuff. Or while it's working, you're assembling that cornhole board while it's cutting out the next one, and so you just doubled your output capacity just by adding a machine. I love that. I absolutely love that. Now, obviously, we're talking about a side hustle, so the money-making potential of CNCs is there. I don't think it's too saturated like everybody talks about, because a hammer is only as good as the person that knows how to use it, and it depends on what you create with that hammer. So I see a CNC as a tool, not necessarily as an end-all be-all. So I view a CNC just like I do a planer, just like I do a joiner, just like I do a hammer. And so they are completely useless sitting here like they are in the video, not cutting anything, not making dust, not screaming, nothing like that. But once you know how to use them, it is very, very easy to make money, and they pay for themselves very quickly, just like that planer does. When you're making cutting boards, you need to take off all that glue. That planer pays for itself very quickly because you're not over there scraping or hand planing, right? And so I like to think of them in that context. Now, the next thing is how scalable they are. And scalability is different than repeatability. And so let me clarify these two things. What I mean by scalability is, let me tell you how kind of I got started, right? I had that $6,000 Hobby Laguna IQ CNC, and I got it to start inlaying cutting boards, and I was doing it in my parents' horse barn. This is one of the old stalls that we actually concreted that I'm standing in now. And I got it to do, once again, inlaid cutting boards. And then as I started growing it and trying to figure out what to do next, I figured out these docking stations, and then those started growing. And I was like, holy crap, I need to make more of these docking stations, this man stand. And we have a whole documentary on the channel. If you haven't watched it, love for you to check it out. But as we got bigger, busier and busier, and I was already doing a repeating process, I needed to cut out more. And so I scaled up. And so I got a 4-foot by 8-foot machine. So I went from my 2-foot by 3-foot to that 4-foot by 8-foot machine. And that allowed me to produce 6 times as much. And then I was engraving so many that I had to get another small machine to keep up with the engravings. I didn't have to just get a bigger machine. I got another one, and I scaled the smaller machine and just duplicated it because I needed to engrave more. And I applied that same business principle to all my other machines I have. And so if you have let's say an alt mill like this, and you're running it and you're cutting out, these random parts like this, and you're doing a repeatable process, it's versatile, it's doing all the things you need to do, and you need to scale, and you don't necessarily need a bigger machine, you just get 2 of them. There's no need to go out and buy a $60,000 CNC, because if this does what you need it to do, you don't have to do anything else crazy. And so you scale it by duplicating it. But in other terms, if you're cutting this out and now you need to cut out 3 times as many at one time, then you scale upwards and you get a bigger machine. And you can't do that with a ton of other woodworking equipment. A lot of it is just a stamping process. But CNCs, you can go so many different directions. You can get a 2 foot by 4 foot, 4 foot by 4 foot, 4 by 8, 5 by 10, 12 inch by 20 inch, one off of Amazon if you're just doing these tiny little markings. It doesn't matter. You can scale up, down, sideways, do whatever the heck you want to do. Now, along with all the scalability, repeatability, the money-making potential, there's something that I inherently like as a woodworker, as a creative person, that a CNC is my creative outlet. And this is a pitch more for CNCs than a side hustle, but it's the fact that I can have something in my head, put it on a design, which is savable, which is so nice. So I take all those paperwork, I take all the paperwork out of my head, I put it in a filing cabinet and file it away. And so I get to take something in my head, put it on a computer, and then transfer it into a physical piece of material like that. And so when people use CNCs for PTSD or treating anxiety and all this different stuff, I can see why, because I love this. And somebody asked me the other day, Ryan, if you had $1 billion, what would you do? And I would have the best CNC shop in the world, because this is what drives me. This is what keeps me going. This is exciting. And so by not getting into CNCs, I mean, maybe you're doing, traditional woodworking or maybe you're not woodworking at all. I just like the fact that I can take crazy ideas in my head, put it to paper, save the paper, which is very key, and then cut it out within an hour, within a day, within a week, and I can already be working on the next project. And so I absolutely love that about CNCs in general, but once you apply that to the business side of you, the business acumen, that money-making side hustle, then you start thinking creatively about business decisions you want to make, different side hustles you want to start or run, or different products you want to make. And that's when the gears just don't stop turning. And to me, that is an amazing life, because you get to create. And I believe you're put on this earth to create and use your head. And so it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Now, besides that fact, making stuff, and I believe the handmade market is coming back. Now, people are going to argue with me that a CNC is not handmade, but at what point is it handmade? Are you out there chopping the lumber up with an axe and hand plane to it? No, you use a planer and you use a powered sander, right? That's powered by a motor. This thing's powered by a motor. And so these handmade products are a growing market. And with a CNC, one thing that's really cool about it is how fast you can personalize and customize stuff. And once again, use those creative juices to make products. And there is more of a demand for that than I have ever seen in the last 13 years of doing this. And once again, people think it's more saturated, but the people that know how to use the tool, your hammer, your CNC, the better. And so that is a huge growing market. Now, the next thing that I like about CNCs, I kind of put CNCs in the same category as a 3D printer, as a Cricut, or that vinyl printer, as a laser engraver, and then you have a CNC, right? So let's stack all of those in the same exact catalog or book. Where I think the CNC has the edge is it is a little bit more difficult. It is on maybe that next price point, and you have to be a little bit, and let's say you're cutting stuff out of wood, you have to be a woodworker, so have a little bit of that creative mind, right? Have a little bit of software design mind, right? Software and how to design stuff, and then have a little bit of business acumen. With these other machines, it's a little too easy to press go. And so when there's a very, very low barrier to entry, like on laser engravers or 3D printers, I think too many people that really don't know what they're doing can start using that tool, right? That hammer. And they're just hammering around everywhere and they think they're doing something great. Where a CNC, you have to go through a little bit of pain and a little bit of trials and tribulations to get to a point where you can actually use it and make products with it. And I like that gap, because what that gap does and makes us different than a 3D printer or a laser engraver, one, they're a lot cheaper to get into, and so there's more people getting into them, and they're a heck of a lot easier to learn. And I actually see that to a fault. And so people that have a CNC, they're on their own little island, because it is that extra little step to start making products with the CNC. Laser engraver, 3D printer, you buy it off of Amazon, you take, I don't know, this piece of paper right here, you cut it out, you laser engrave it, do whatever the heck you want to do. You take a 3D printer, you press go, put some filament in, it starts doing stuff. A CNC has another layer of difficulty, and so less people do it, which allows you to have a much bigger market and be on your own little island. And so a lot of people don't talk about that. They see that as a detriment. I do not see that as a detriment. I see that as a benefit, and why I have, what I said, 8 CNCs, I have 1 3D printer, and 3 laser engravers. And there's a reason for that kind of ratio on my machines, because these just put myself on that island and make me seem a lot more intelligent than I probably really am, because I know how to operate these machines. Now, the last thing that I absolutely love, and as we're gonna go check out my my first shop real quick, or my first CNC area. And if you are getting value from this video, do not forget to like and subscribe. This would help the channel out a ton. And I do these for y'all guys. And so if you are getting value, don't forget to like and subscribe. Now, the last reason, at least for this video, is going to be how future-proof it is. And what I mean by future-proof is no amount of AI and technology is going to really inherently change how a CNC operates. And so this right here is my original room and the original horse stalls that I started with, okay? That one right there, if you can point to Steven, that is the original CNC that I started with. And then, like I said, I got that 4x8 machine, and then it started cutting out so much product, I had to engrave so much, ended up getting this machine. This machine right here, the original, the OG that I got for $6,000, it still works, and it still functions, and it's still grinding, and still putting in work. And it is now 9 years old. Out of all the stuff that has happened in the last 9 years, the amount of AI, the amount of technology, the amount of everything that's came out, that machine still functions and it still works great. This machine is 7 years old, still functions, still works great. This machine is also 7 years old, still functions, still works great. And so, just like a planer still planes, a joiner still joints, I think that's the joiner jointed stuff, yeah, joiner still joints, the sander still sands, a CNC is still going to be able to produce product years later. You do not have to worry about a ton of technology eliminating that. Whereas maybe like with a Cricut printer, you know, like as Cricuts have gotten more and more popular, they figured out more and more stuff for them, and then they're even getting cheaper, and then there's a whole bunch of other knockoffs. A CNC, to me, and why I think a side hustle is so good with it, if you can't figure out how to make money with it this year, you still have like 10 more years to figure it out and try to pay for that machine, because they can only get so cheap. You have parts, you have spindles, you have ball screws, and so unless that metal becomes free, you know, they're not necessarily just gonna keep going down in price. There's components here that have to be here, and no amount of technology is gonna change that. And I absolutely love that. And so that's why I still have all of my original machines, because they're already paid for, I'm still making money with them, and they paid for my side hustle a long time ago. Now, with all those good things being said, let's talk about some of the challenges that you might face when pursuing that CNC side hustle. So one of the first challenges that you're gonna have to overcome is the space for the CNC. And so I'm lucky enough to be grown up in the country and have a horse stall to put it in, and I'm super blessed to have that. But a CNC, in my recommendation, whatever footprint the CNC is, you need 3 to 4x that footprint. And so if this footprint is 5 foot by 4 foot, you need, whatever that is, 8 foot by 10 foot to have that space for that CNC, because you need space in the front of it, space on the side of it, equal space, and space on, you know, either side of it or one side of it. Trust me on that one. That's why this one has a little bit of space here, a little bit of space here, and I actually had to take this one out and open up those doors so I have more space. With that being said, if you wanted to get into woodworking, you're gonna have to have a lot more space than that, because you have a miter saw, a table saw, and stuff like that. Now, the argument would be, Ryan, I can just go outside with that stuff, and a CNC, you can't just sit outside. You would win that argument, 100%. But that is gonna be a challenge that you're gonna have to overcome initially, is figuring out the space. Now, let's say you have the space and you have the area. The next challenge you're gonna have is all the noise and all the dust that these CNCs make. And I will tell you, first and foremost, no matter how good your dust collection is, whether you have a giant dust collector outside, a shop vac running it, I don't care, there is still going to be dust that's floating around. People may argue with that. It has been my experience over the last number of years that dust is always a problem when you're working with wood. If you don't want dust, cut plastic and acrylic. And it's going to be great. It may smell like a nail salon, but cutting acrylic, this is acrylic right here, doesn't really cause too much dust. It may smell, once again, like you're getting your nails done at a, is it nail salon? Yeah, you're getting your feet rubbed or whatever, but you will be able to not have as much dust. But that's always going to be a factor. And of course, noise. When these bits cut, they love to scream, right? They just love to scream. Think of that goat that goes like, ah! These things are going to be loud, they're going to scream a lot, and so you're going to have to deal with the noise and the dust that comes from these machines. Now, the next challenge you're going to have to face when getting into this, and we'll start walking back to the other room, is the upfront cost that you're going to have when looking at all these machines. The upfront cost of those machines were $6,000, and like I said earlier in this video, the costs are going down, but you may still have to fork out, $1,000 to get started in this. But honestly, what side hustle do you not have to shell out a little bit of money? Whether it's smoking meat, barbecuing, you have to buy a Traeger, whether it's cigars, something I just recently got into, and you got to buy your first couple boxes of cigars. Any kind of different hustle, you typically have to shell out a little bit of money for. Now, the challenge that if you do not have a CNC, or maybe you already have one you're looking to upgrade, another huge challenge that I personally cannot stand in the market right now is how many options you're bombarded with. And it says that like, this machine is the best thing since sliced bread. And this machine is the best thing since sliced bread. And this other machine is better than this other machine because it cuts a little bit faster. It has this gadget or gizmo. To me, none of that actually matters that much. I like this machine for multiple reasons, which is the alt mill. I like the Onefinity for a couple different reasons. I like my Lagunas for some reasons. I like my Shop Sabers. Like, to me, it doesn't matter what machine you get because there's going to be a ton of options out there and you're probably going to spend 200-300 hours looking at the options when, in my opinion, just go ahead and get one, right? Like any machine like this is going to function and is going to do what you want it to do, right? The only limitation is the size of the table. And so if you want to cut bigger pieces of wood and you get a tiny CNC, probably not going to happen. But most CNCs do what you want them to do and do what you need them to do. And so for me, I mentor people in CIC Academy over, how to make money with their CNC, kind of the same kind of thing. And one of the questions that always pops up is, Ryan, when do I know to upgrade? What CNC should I get next? Because I'm starting to make a little bit of money with this, or, I want to make some money with it. What CNC should I get? And it's like, well, what are you cutting out? Well, I'm cutting out, this shape right here. I was like, well, it doesn't matter. You can get a $1,000, $1,200 CNC and make a ton of money with it. One of the members has a Bob's CNC in there, and it's a wooden CNC. It's all laser cut, it's wooden CNC, and a lot of people consider it a cheapie. He's making a killing from it. And he's like, when do I upgrade? I was like, why upgrade? It's doing the thing you need it to do. And so when you're looking at all of these options, just do not get so overwhelmed because it is a challenge. Trust me, it is a huge challenge. Whenever I'm looking at industrial machines I want, or different machines like this that I want to jump into and learn, there's just a crazy amount of options. So do not get bogged down from that. I will make a video on what I look for in a CNC later on, but just don't get bogged down by that because there is a ton of options out there. Just get the machine that's going to be able to cut whatever the heck you want to cut, and typically the footprint is the first place I look, and then after that, I figure it out. So that's my 2 cents there. I can go on a soapbox, but I'm not. Now, the next challenge you're going to face is the software side of it and the learning curve. Now, this is something that, to me, like I said earlier, is a challenge, but it's also beautiful because, after 9 years of doing CNC 40 to 80 hours a week, I've learned about this much, right? There's still this much to learn. Like, I don't know how to 3D model, and I've been doing this 9 years. And you know what? that's okay. Because my CNCs do what they need to do. And so for you, as you're gonna sit and you're gonna go, man, like there's so many different things to learn about this and this, and there's once again so many different options out there. You have to be patient enough to understand that you will break bits. Where's that bit? Where's those broken bits at? You will break bits here. These are all burnt or broken bits. Yeah. You will break bits. You will spend money on breaking bits and burning them up and not running them too fast. All of those bits, I did not run at the correct speeds and speeds. But did it matter? No, because I was learning. And that's okay, that's part of the fun. That's why you're watching this video, because you want to learn. And so, my opinion, don't be scared of that learning curve. The first 3 months are gonna be the hardest. You're gonna wanna flip your CNC, you're gonna break the most bits, you're gonna ruin the most materials, the most projects, like right here. This was like last week when I was cutting out this and it ruined the project. Still happens, I still learn that. So that's not gonna stop. But the fear of having that learning curve and having it being too much stops most people. So if you just take that jump and you jump in the pool and you start to learn how to swim, just know that the pool you're jumping into is only 4 foot deep. And so you're never gonna fully drown. You just may need to learn how to swim to keep your head way above water. I hope that makes sense, because I know that I can jump into deeper waters now because I at least know how to swim, but I don't know all the intricacies about, let's say, this alt mill that I just got. And I'm learning, and that's okay. And if you do wanna learn and keep learning, I do have a free community called CNC Startups, and you learn a ton from it. I have some CNC fundamentals in there about bits. You know, this is where I taught it at, so in this corner right here. And it's a free community, completely free. You join it, you learn a ton. I have some different courses on there, and I will be adding to it a ton in the next 3, 6, 12 months. So hope you check that out, and just don't be afraid to jump in and learn. Now, the last challenge that I see coming your way if you want to start a CNC side hustle is the fact that you think it's going to be easy. And that is a huge mindset shift. And like, once again, you get a CNC and you're like, oh my gosh, I know so-and-so and he's making a ton of money from it. Or I've watched Ryan's videos and he has this big shop and he's making money from it because he's selling on Facebook and Etsy and his website and B2B and doing all these things. It's freaking hard. That's it. And if you're not ready to put in a little bit of work while you're learning a CNC, to learn a little bit of business, and you're gonna make this a most amazing product, right? You're gonna make this, and you're gonna take photos of it, and you're gonna post it, and you're not gonna sell any of them. That's a reality that's probably gonna happen a couple times. But then you learn to cut off these little knobs and make it a different color and finish it a certain way, and then the sales start coming in. And so the challenge to you is not get frustrated when it gets hard, because when it gets hard, most people quit. And that's why things are hard, right? Because most people quit and it weeds them out. And if you're watching this video and want to start that CNC side hustle and are wanting to make the jump into CNCs and jump in that learning curve, or if you already have one, you're wanting to upgrade and really start going into it, you know, I know a side hustle is not a full-time business, but it's still just not hunky-dory, right? Like, you're still going to have lots of things that are going to come in and hit you in the face. You're going to break bits on a project that doesn't sell. And that is one of the worst things out there. I promise you. I have broke so many bits on so many projects and ruined so many pieces of material, and finally get the new material in and then cut out the project, and then the damn thing still doesn't sell. But you know what I do? I go like this and smile, because we are living in the greatest time in human history, and it's amazing, and you get to take stuff out of your brain, put it on the computer, put it on a CNC, and get to create. And that's amazing. And so whether you're looking at getting into a CNC side hustle and seeing all the pros that I just talked about, seeing all the reasons why, and you see some of these challenges like the learning curve, or the fact that you're going to break bits, or the fact that you have to learn a little bit of computer stuff, just know it's beautiful. And it's all part of the process, and you should find joy in that journey. So if you are a creative person that likes to work a little bit hard, work with your hand, and make some money, I highly encourage you to take up a CNC side hustle today because it is the most beautiful thing and you don't know what that seed will become after you plant it. It could turn into a full-fledged business. You can just do it and have fun on the side, give stuff to friends and family. I don't care, but planting that seed is amazing because you never know what kind of flower is going to bloom from it. So guys, thank you so much for watching. And as always, remember, if you ain't cutting it close, you ain't cutting it right.